Welcome to my Pokemon Platinum Hardcore Nuzlocke using only Poison Type Pokemon. As a fanatical enjoyer of the mascot that represents this very channel, it wouldn't be much of a stretch to say that I hold a very special place in my heart for the Poison typing. And while this regional dex is fairly small compared to the others, the designs that we did get are some of the coolest ones to date, and I'm very eager to see what they can do together. Another chapter in our Sinnoh adventures is about to begin. Ruleset is in the description, and other than that, I hope you guys enjoy the series. Let's do this. Back in Sinnoh once again. Since the walkthrough was completed in a single attempt, it definitely feels refreshing to be back at the beginning. Now I bet you're expecting me to open up this series by saying something along the lines of, Poison is a very interesting, unique, or incredible typing. But if I'm being honest, as much as I love Poison Pokemon myself, I think the type leaves a lot to be desired mechanically. If we simply take a look at how Poison matches up against other types, it paints a very mediocre picture. Defensively, we're great against grass, bug, fighting, and of course, other poison type attacks. I'm not going to say that having resistances to both grass and bug is useless, it's just not as helpful compared to what you could resist instead. Being immune to poison effects is nice though, and fighting type attacks are some of the hardest hitting in the game, and they are very common as well. Ground and psychic types are fairly prevalent throughout your journey, particularly in the late game, so Lucian of the Elite Four is definitely going to be interesting. Moving on to the other side of combat, if someone walked up to me and told me that Poison was the worst offensive type in the entire series, I would not take issue with that statement. Not only is Poison not very effective against some of the most common typings like Rock and Ground, but most of the damage dealing Poison type moves worth using don't come until much later in the game. And with Grass as literally the only typing we can hit for super effective damage, the most common Pokemon of that type also having the Poison typing, it's not great. To add to the difficulty of this challenge a bit, there are, I believe, only 8 Poison type lines in the entirety of Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. So let's just say our full team of 6 will remain pretty consistent across the entire series. We're going to get to know these guys very well. Alright, enough overview, let's get into starter selection. As usual, if we are unable to use any of the starters in our run, I always replace one with one of the Pokemon we can actually use. I usually spend a decent amount of time thinking about it, but for this challenge, my choice was pretty easy to make. I have decided to replace Piplup with Stunky. I guess the randomizer doesn't actually display the image of the new Pokemon in Gen 4 like it does with the GBA games. Anyway, this was an easy decision to make as not only does Stunky not exist in Platinum normally, I believe it is only exclusive to Pokemon Diamond, but it's got fairly comparable stats to the other first stage starters. Some of you may object because Stunky is technically not legal in Platinum, but this just makes it more fun for me, and I don't want to be forced to play through Diamond instead just so I can use a Skunk Tank. Our battle against Barry went fine. We head over to Sandgem Town to meet up with Lucas and Professor Rowan, the Pokedex is acquired, and we are on our way. I always forget there's an item over here on the beach, although I am almost positive it's an antidote, so I'll just leave it right where it is. And now we enter Route 202 to begin our long road ahead. Well, I guess I'll see you guys in attempt number 2. That is amazing. I have not had something like that happen to me in a long time. I'm hearing everyone talk about Fantina, Candace, and Cynthia. No. Youngster Tristan is the real run killer in Pokemon Platinum. We quickly start up the next attempt, and now it's personal. Quick team review as we go into this. As you will see, our Stunky is not only at full HP this time, but we've also gone up to a whopping level 8 in order to bring this thing down. We hit the Screech on the first turn, huge play for us, Stunky really clutching one out here, and we go for the Scratch on the next turn for massive damage. We get hit with another crit tackle, and we've seen this before. We know the quick attack is coming. Can Stunky hold on? Starly falls, granting us absolutely nothing other than our pride and dignity. Luckily, the rest of the route went just fine, and we have now reached Jubilife City. Does anyone know if Lucas and Dawn have different themes? I don't know why, but this sounds slightly different to me for some reason. Our time in Jubilife is fairly short, with the delivery of Barry's package at the trainer school, gathering coupons for the Poketch. I love that you can just mash through these questions since all the answers are the same, and we pick up the Quick Claw to wrap things up. Now, before we head over to Orberg to take on our first gym, we're going to need some more help. We head north to Route 204 first to pick up a few encounters. You'll notice two things. One, it's nighttime to help with the encounter we are going for, and two, we are bypassing the grassy area of the route to pick up our encounter from the Ravaged Path first, in Zubat. We are doing this because Zubat also has a chance to appear in the grassy area right outside, and we definitely do not want to miss the other encounter we can get there. To talk about Zubat for just a second, even though there isn't a whole lot to say, this is easily going to be one of our best encounters of the entire run, especially for the first half of the game, where our encounters will be very limited. The Poison Flying combo is a fantastic defensive typing to have, and will serve us very well in our playthrough. With a solid learn set and an early 3rd stage evolution, I have a distinct feeling that Crobat is going to carry this run for quite a while. Back outside now, and we quickly pick up that crucial encounter I mentioned earlier in Badoo. Sorry if anyone was hoping to see me slam my head against Roark with just a Stunky and a Zubat. Badoo should be able to get us through the first badge without too much of an issue. Actually, correction, I should say our Rosalia shouldn't have any issues, as Badoo is a friendship evolution, so I will get access to it right away. Rosalia and Roserade should be pretty great outside the first gym as well, especially with the utility the line brings to the team. Now let's begin our trek towards Orberg City, starting with Rival 2. We are adequately prepared for this, I'd say. Stunky is pretty overleveled and has no issue taking on this Starly. And the incoming Turtwig is handled by our Zubat. Quick note on that Turtwig, by the way, I know the first 2 stages of this line are weak to poison type attacks. Not that we're really going to have many of those anyway, but I figured once Barry gets his hands on Torterra that it could potentially pose the biggest threat towards our team. We'll see how the future fights play out. The rest of the route ain't too bad, although I do find my blood pressure rising just a little bit whenever I take on a wild Kricketot. The bide scares me, okay? After entering Orberg Gate and picking up Rock Smash, we have reached our first major gym town. We take care of our usual business, free Super Potion, hard scale, love to see it. And as we enter Orberg Mine, our first evolution of the playthrough has already graced us with his presence. Hey, stop playing with rocks and get back to your gym. Damn, I can't believe we're at Roark already. I'm so used to the walkthrough pacing, but I guess it makes sense that this series would move a bit faster. I don't think we need a team review for this one. We all know where this is going. Not a whole lot to say. Grass beats rock, but Rosalia is also simply just too powerful to be wielded this early on in the game. Geodude and Onix go down easily. Now let's see if this Mega Drain can one-shot the Cranidos. And to my surprise, it actually didn't. Luckily, we only get hit with a useless Leer, but I'm actually kind of curious to know how much a headbutt would have dealt to us in that situation. I wouldn't be surprised if a crit would have taken us out there. With one more Mega Drain, Roark goes down, and the first badge of the run is ours. We say goodbye to Orberg for now, head back over to Jubilife City, and meet up with Rowan and Lucas to deal with these clowns for the first time. Rowan's dialogue here is always hilarious at least, but battles against grunts of all kinds in this game are always very underwhelming. After the quarrel, I head over to the TV station in hopes to win the lottery so I can quit my job and do YouTube full time. Someday. And we are back on the move again. I picked up the TM for Rock Tomb over in the Ravaged Path, although I'm not sure I'm really ever going to need it. Looking at the overall encounter list for this run, every line is pretty fast already. Now at the northern end of Route 204, normally I would say there's not a whole lot to see here, but we get into a really rough battle against the twins and their Pachirisu at the end of the route. Why is it that when I use Pachirisu, it's awful, but when AI uses it against me, they become pseudo-legendaries? Our situation got really bad in a hurry as the twins quickly identified our weakest link and jumped on our Stunky right from the start. I switched into Zubat to help mitigate some of the damage, but Roselia was just not dealing enough damage to help us get out of this in a hurry. Zubat gets pummeled immediately upon switching in. And Roselia's Mega Drain couldn't get the job done. Well, if I have to sacrifice something, it will unfortunately have to be our Stunky. The first quick attack lands, but the second one actually went to Roselia instead. I don't think it's gonna matter though, unless this AI for some insane reason wants to continue to hit Roselia. What is happening? Please do it again. But not this time though. And our first death of attempt number 2 is our starter once again. Was that just straight up BM or something? Just playing around with us, making us think we had pulled off a frickin' miracle? Well, even though it's still kinda early, I'm going to see how far we can take this thing. Stunky doesn't even really become much of a factor until much later in the game anyway, so in the meantime, I think we'll be okay. As we enter the pleasant vibes of Floroma Town, our first order of business is to bury the fallen. Sorry buddy, I'm sure we'll see each other again soon. This town is pretty sweet. The overall theme is great, and it kind of feels like an evolution of the Pretty Petal Flower Shop and that whole area of Route 104 in Hoenn. We've got some incredible pickups here as well, with the TM for Pluck, a very powerful early game move that allows us to eat the opposing Pokemon's berry. And speaking of berries, we can pick up our first ones right outside the flower shop. We can also pick up a random berry each day from this lady here. Rost Berry isn't so great, but hey, it's free I guess. And now it's time to press forward by heading towards the Valley Windworks. Chesto berries are always good, and grown adults kidnapping dads to use them for science is never good. So let's sort that out. After quickly beating up the grunt at Valley Windworks, and then providing the same treatment to those stealing honey over in Floroma Meadow, we go through a pretty meaty grinding session over on Route 204 to prepare ourselves for our next major fight, Mars. Let's get into a quick team review. The assignments are very simple. Zubat is going to take the opposing Zubat out with a couple of plucks and wing attacks. And Roselia is going to deal with Purugly. Zubat will not be able to use Pluck on Purugly as the incoming fake out will most certainly deal too much damage for us to risk anything. But despite the Citrus Berry remaining intact on Mars's ace, Roselia should do quite well with Mega Drain, and you'll see why in just a moment. Let's see if we can handle one of the early run killers with just 2 Pokemon. The fight starts with some Zubat on Zubat action, and hopefully there won't be any unpleasant surprises here. The first wing attack deals over half, and the incoming bite hits us for a lot less. Another attack on the following turn brings her Zubat down. Even though our HP appears to be fairly high, Zubat is very squishy, and the combination of Fake Out and Feint Attack just seems like it would be too much. I switch into Roselia to take the next few incoming hits. bringing us down to about half. But take notice here of how much damage this Mega Drain deals. Perugly is considered difficult at this stage in the game primarily because of how fast and tanky it is this early. But that's because the most common counters to it are often physical based threats such as Geodude or Onix, or even something like Machop for example. But Perugly actually has a pretty terrible special defense stat, which opens the door for us not only to dish out some powerful hits, but to heal a lot of the incoming damage back as well. After the Citrus Berry pops, Roselia takes one last hit from Scratch, and then we go for the kill. And just like that, Mars is finished. Taking down Mars with only 2 Pokemon is pretty awesome, but so is reuniting a little girl with her father. And with that, this episode is now over. Eterna Forest and City are up next as we continue our newest adventure through the Sinnoh region. I am really happy with the pacing of this run so far, and I hope you guys are looking forward to what comes next. In the meantime, as usual, please like the video if you liked it, and subscribe for more content like this. That's it from me. I'll see you next time.